Well, for more on how the drama is playing out in the House, I want to bring in Matt Mowers in Washington, D.C. He's a former State Department advisor to the White House and the president of Valcor, a public strategy firm. Matt, it's good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Becky.
I'm looking at this, obviously, with an international lens. And the question many are asking is, just how impactful is this going to be for US politics and policy going forward? So I guess, how long it takes for House Republicans to find a new speaker at this point and get things back on track is massively important. What's your sense?
Well, there was a lot of fights with Kevin McCarthy about personality and process. There was a lot of fights about how was the House going to operate? What would the process be for new legislation would come up through the committee process or be top down the way it was in past Congresses? The big challenge and difference here internationally is that a lot of the fights right now are going to be about policy. You already have Jim Jordan, who's announced that he's running for speaker, say that he's going to oppose any new funding for Ukraine. He voted against the continuing resolution this last weekend, which even didn't have Ukraine funding. Steve Scalise is more of a traditional conservative foreign policy thinker, someone who understands the need for America to engage in the world. It doesn't mean you sideline American interests there, but you do step up when you're needed. So there's going to be some policy differences here that the conference is going to have to settle out when they have this forum on Tuesday, and then of course when they have the vote on Wednesday. If they don't get to 218, right, if the conference doesn't unite around one or the other, or potentially both, if they elevate Steve Scalise to speaker and then maybe Jim Jordan to majority leader, you may have to have a consensus choice outside of that, either among the Republican conference or maybe even potentially, although unlikely, among bipartisan members, where you do still have a majority support in Congress in a bipartisan fashion for increased Ukraine funding and policies like that.
We know that Ukraine funding was an issue that was squarely in focus during this chaos. And I do just want to get your sense of how the Republicans might lean going forward when all is said and done. Polling certainly shows a weakening of support for Ukraine funding, particularly amongst Trump supporting Republicans. But across the board, in the latest Reuters Ipsos polling, when asked whether Washington should provide weapons to Ukraine, 41% said yes, 35% said no, and that 41% of support has actually weakened somewhat. This Republican Party sort of chaos and what happens next will have certainly not just conceivably, could have an enormous impact on whether the US continues to support this war, correct?
Well, it could. And in fact, you see a diversity of polling. It's still relatively close, even in some aspects of the Republican Party. There was a recent USA Today poll of primary voters in New Hampshire, which is one of the early primary voting states. So we'll have an increased influence in the presidential nomination process. You had a plurality say they did not want any more funding for Ukraine, but it wasn't far off from the marker that said it was about 40% or so that said they would support continuing funding for Ukraine. Often it also depends, and we do polling and we've looked at polling in this, how you phrase the question. There is continued support more often for military provisions to actually support Ukraine militarily so that they have the resources and tools and equipment to defeat Russia, as compared to economic and humanitarian assistance, which does drop a little bit further down amongst public sentiment. Many Americans believe that it's in the best interest of the United States to continue to provide the military equipment necessary, but there is a little bit of a differential when you get to other types of support. Now, you're right, though, amongst the broader electorate, there still continues to be support for it. And even in a majority of Congress, there were just a few weeks ago, there was a vote on Ukraine assistance, and a majority of even Republicans in the House voted for it. And support for Ukraine is nearly unanimous amongst Republicans in the U.S. Senate, who to this point have been driving lots of this process.
And the reason that I ask, and thank you, because that analysis is really important. The reason I ask is that, congressional Republicans are there to do the people's business, right? To reflect the people's will effectively. Mm-hmm. When are they going to get back, as a whole House, for that matter, and get back to doing what they are paid to do, which is the people's business.
Well, Becky, that's the question a lot of Americans are asking every single day right now. Look, I share the empathy of a lot of Americans and the feelings of a lot of Americans when we hope that Congress shows up and does its job, that members of Congress actually show up and are looking to govern and not just, get on TV and not just score points for fundraising emails. And that's why, you showed some clips from Representative Dusty Johnson. You've seen on CNN today Representative Max Miller, others. You can feel and sense the frustration. In my conversations with them and many other members, they are frustrated at the 8. It was 8. It was less than 4% of the Republican caucus that voted to remove Kevin McCarthy this week. That 4% of the conference, allied with the unanimous consent of the Democrats and the minority, were able to remove a Republican Speaker of the House. There's that frustration there. Majority of Republicans want to get to work. They want to show up and do what the American people have sent them to do every day, which is, yes, reduce spending. Yes, be conscientious of how we're investing U.S. tax dollars, both at home and abroad, but then ultimately make government work and look out for America's best interest. And unfortunately, we saw a bit of a circus with a leader of among 8 members of Congress on the Republican side, along with every single Democrat. But I know Republicans largely are hopeful that we're going to return to regular order here, that government's going to continue to fund after the November next funding deadline that will be coming up. And then hopefully we'll have a speaker next week, although at the moment there's no guarantee of that either.
Yeah. Good to have you, sir. We'll have you back.
Thank you so much.